Well, good morning everybody and those looking in. I'm going to talk about this game, and I wondered if you played this over Christmas. But first, because it's Epiphany, let's hear something about what Epiphany is about from the Gospel today, which is part of Matthew chapter 2. Thank you. Let's stand. Jesus was born in the town of Bethlehem in Judea during the time when Herod was king. Soon afterwards, some men who studied the stars came from the east to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the baby born to be king of the Jews? We saw his star when it came up in the east, and we've come to worship him." When King Herod heard about this, he was very upset, and so was everyone else in Jerusalem. He called together all the chief priests and all the teachers of the law and asked them, "Where will the Messiah be born?" "Oh, in the town of Bethlehem in Judea," they answered. For this was what the prophet wrote, "Bethlehem in the land of Judah, you are by no means the least of the leading cities of Judah. For from you will come a leader who will guide my people Israel." So Herod called the visitors from the east to a secret meeting and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem with these instructions: "Go and make a careful search for the child. And when you find him, let me know, so that I too may go and worship him." And so they left. And on their way they saw the same star they had seen in the east. When they saw it, how happy they were, what joy was theirs. It went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. They went into the house, and when they saw the child with his mother Mary, they knelt down and worshipped him. They brought out their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and presented them to him. Then they returned to their country by another road, since God had warned them in a dream not to go back to Herod. This is the gospel of Christ. Praise to you, O Christ. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, I wonder, ladies and gentlemen, if you managed to play Monopoly or another famous board game this Christmas. One of our favourites is this. It's been around for many, many years, from the days when I had hair on my head. Okay, it's an old version, this one is. And it's a great, great game. The time-honoured Cluedo. Brilliant. Anyone got any of that at home? You have? Most people? I hope so. It's a great game. It really is. You've got to use your brains in it. And in it, you have to work out which room a murder took place in, who was the culprit, and what weapon he or she used. Do you remember the 6 characters in the game? Can you take us? Colonel Mustard. There speaks the military man. Colonel Mustard. Who else was there? Miss Scarlet. Shows her in the red over there. Anybody else? Professor Plum. Reverend Green, of course. Yeah, the ugly vicar. Reverend Green. There's another one. Miss Peacock. Mrs. White. That's it, you've got it. Mrs. White, who I think was the chef. Okay, what a lot. And the whole thing about the game is that by working things out, you eventually discover who done it. And everybody else who's playing with you does their best to stop you from discovering the murder facts, because they want to solve the mystery before you do. You have to be on the ball, you see, to play Cluedo. And many religions and New Age spiritualities are like this. You have to work out and discover for yourself various revelations of truth in the universe. God is an abstract, rather remote force that has to be worked out and discovered by you using your brains and your logic, just like Cluedo. And the more you discover and work out, then the more you get to know about God, apparently. You're coming from the outside and working your way in. You sort of discover things about God rather than have any relationship with God. It's all a bit logical and cold. And it's what passes these days as being spiritual or a spiritual journey. Well, it leaves me cold and isn't to me what Epiphany is all about at all. Just being spiritual isn't enough. The times I've debated with people who say things like, well, I look at a sunset. That's where I get my spirituality, you know, something up there. Look at the mountains. Look at the forests. Well, saying that God exists because of those things is still not what Epiphany is all about. New Age spirituality. The books at Waterstones are shelves and shelves of New Age spirituality. How to connect with your spirit guide. How to connect with the different chakras going down your body, etc., 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 etc. Wow, it's a bit like Cluedo New Age spirituality. You discover facts as you go along, but that's about all there is, really. Like discovering facts about a famous person or someone famous in a New Year's honours list. We know all about them, but we don't know them. What about if a famous person like the Queen actually came to your house to see you or speak to you? What if she came from Buckingham Palace to seek you out or me out? I think if she knocked on my door, my personal relationship with her would change everything, wouldn't it? Because she's come to see me in person. And I have to unlearn a few things I thought about the Queen and revise my opinion of her because she come just to see me and my house, 81 High Street, Newport Pagnell. Can you imagine it? Or come into your house. Is this the poet's estate? Yes, it is. I'm looking for Mervyn and Linda. Can you imagine it? The big black car with a flag on the front with some corgis in the back. She's come to communicate just with you. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Queen didn't wait for you to discover all about her on Wikipedia, but actually sought you out to speak and get to know you? And that, folks, is what Epiphany is all about. God doesn't wait for us to become intelligent enough to discover him. He manifests himself first, right amongst us. He reveals himself to us first. There are no secret rites to go through to discover him. No layers of meaning to be grasped first. No exams to do or checklist to tick. God made himself manifest among us. It's what he chose to do. And the Magi, the wise men, were learned men who sought knowledge from science and the stars, which is great in itself. The problem is, God is personal. Their knowledge took them only so far. When they arrived in Judea, the story says, they were then stumped. They had to seek help from the Jewish tradition and others who spoke of God as personal in order to find the location of Jesus so that they could meet him. Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews, they said. We've seen his star, but we're not sure how to meet him. They had to draw from the tradition of those who knew that God was personal and not remote in order to get to the crib. It was Israel, which means struggle with God. It was Israel which was chosen all along to be God's unique revelation to humankind. It was Israel that taught that God isn't some form of abstract knowledge that you learn about in academic stages. It was Israel and the prophets who had had personal relationships with God that had to reveal to the Magi, these intelligent guys with brains the size of a planet. It was Israel that had to reveal how you actually bump into the real God. Read their stories, the prophets, about their close-up, head-on relationships and encounters with God. Moses, Elijah, Abraham, and so on. The Epiphany shows that God doesn't wait around for people to accidentally find him or have to work it out like in a Cluedo game. God got on with speaking his own heart and mind to humanity. So any growing worldly, esoteric, New Age religion, the sort the wise men had, has to draw us closer and personally to the living God to be valid. And they don't. If it doesn't draw us into relationship with the living God, then that wisdom, worldly wisdom, falls woefully short. It's no good looking at a sunset or a beautiful picture outside saying, oh, I believe God exists. It's not good enough. I believe the Queen exists, but I don't know her. That's the thing. Remember the staggering claim of Christianity. Jesus isn't just another wise religious teacher. He is the Word made flesh. God himself. Seeking us out. And any real seeking on our part has to lead to him. Not a philosophy or a way of life like Buddhism. It has to lead to him, a person. And that's what the Magi learned. As the wise men discovered, our own logical, intellectual Cluedo efforts get us part of the way there. But Epiphany teaches us that God sought us out first. That's what love is. God's light searches us out because that's what God's love does. It's what love does. It seeks out the welfare of the other. It seeks us out and doesn't wait for us to come to him. God isn't a concept. He's not a theology. He's a person who enters our world in Jesus, made himself available for us and lived amongst us. And that's the difference between Christianity and all other religions. They may have some stuff in common, but not this. He came to us, revealed himself to us. The opposite of what goes on in Cluedo, a New Age spirituality, where you have to discover everything. You have to do all the legwork. And when you get there, it's not even personal. Just another idea you learn. My wife isn't an idea. Well, she thinks she is sometimes, but I have a personal relationship with her. And the promise of the New Age esoteric religions is that you connect with an energy. You discover an energy rather than the personality of God. And when you encounter him personally, it's so amazing that you give your all. As the Magi gave all they had to Jesus. Gold, frankincense, myrrh, their lives. And then we're told they went to their home country another way. Well, quite apart from the danger. Of course they went back another way. You see, nobody ever comes to Christ and goes back the same way they came to Christ. When you encounter Jesus personally, you never return to the same way of life you had when you were journeying towards him. It's like winning the lottery. Your life's never the same, is it? You don't go back to your old way of life when you won £1 million. When you've encountered Jesus personally, you don't return to the same way of life that you had. Meeting Jesus is not about becoming nicer people. It's about transformation. So our path from then on will always be different and new. We are transformed and journey in a different way. Doesn't matter whether you believe in the Big Bang or 6-day creation and all that. What matters is this. Finally, what matters is this. The one who stretched out the heavens, created all that is, seen and unseen, chose to reveal himself to us, to seek us out and to connect with you and me personally. That is important to God, the God of all creation. And it's staggering that he should want to know you and me one to one and seek us out. Amen.